Let's just bring you this, which is the latest image that we have of Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, a broad smile on her face there. This is from Tulip Siddiq, her local MP, and the tweet says, "It's been 6 long years and I can't believe I can finally share this photo. Nazanin is now in the air, flying away from 6 years of hell in Iran. My heart goes out to Gabriella and Richard as her long journey back home to them gets closer by the minute." And the hashtag below, Nazanin is free. Dominic, our diplomatic editor, is here with us. Dominic, do we know anything about how she will get home? Direct flight from Tehran to London? Unlikely? Or will she go to a different country first?
It's likely she's going to go to a different country on the way back, possibly Oman, that played some kind of role in these negotiations. And then she'll be flying back here this evening, we're told. We're not sure where she'll be landing, which airport, but it will be late this evening, and that's her third country, if you like. She's going to presumably get a chance to decompress a bit and talk to Foreign Office diplomats about her ordeal. But I mean, that picture's amazing, isn't it? I mean, she looks incredibly well. She looks very happy. She looks tired, but you know, not surprising. But you can see the relief on her face, can't you? She sits there on that plane. And she's literally just taken off. About 5 minutes ago, I was told that she was on the plane, but hadn't taken off. And I think the expectation from the family and their lawyers were that she was going to take off, well, 3.5 hours ago. So I think that led to an enormous amount of anxiety because they have been played by the Iranian authorities. You have to stress this. Over the years, the Iranians have toyed with them, knowing that she's a high-profile name, knowing that they are trying to milk it for publicity. They've raised the possibility of her being released, both in negotiations and in what they've been saying publicly, only to have the hopes that those raised in her family's minds dashed. And I think, you know, even to the last minute, they must have been thinking there's a possibility this could go wrong, even though everything was going in the right direction. Now, finally, she is on a plane and flying home, confirmed by her local MP and by the Foreign Secretary, who has played a very strong role in this. She has succeeded Liz Truss where all her predecessors have failed. And we understand that she's pushed very hard with this. She's made it very clear to her Iranian Foreign Minister counterpart that she wanted this sorted out, and she's managed with her diplomats to secure the release of Nazanin and Anoosheh Ashoori, although all those before have failed to do so.
And confirmed by her and also the Prime Minister, who tweeted a short time ago, "I'm very pleased to confirm that the unfair detention of Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe and Anoosheh Ashoori in Iran has ended today, and they will now return to the UK." Everybody has been dancing around their words so carefully in relation to this case, in relation to her detention for so long. The Prime Minister there, though, calling her detention unfair.
Yeah, the same man, Boris Johnson, who, of course, back in 2017, I think it was, when he was Foreign Secretary, landed her in a lot more trouble. Boris Johnson telling MPs that she had been in Iran training journalists, whereas she'd only been there on holiday, introducing her daughter to her grandparents, Nazanin's parents. And that clip of him saying that to MPs, where he seems not to have read his brief, he just wasn't on top of things, got it completely wrong. That clip just got played over and over again on Iranian state TV, and it led to her spending more time in jail. So he can sigh a big sigh of relief as well, because someone he's caused a lot of trouble to is now coming home. He can relax as well as everyone else watching on.
And she's going to be back late tonight, we think. Gabriella, only 7, very, very excited, according to her lawyer. One imagines she'll probably be allowed to stay up past her bedtime tonight.
She's a girl that has her own mind. She's a very bright girl, and she's very charming. And she either wants to be filmed or she doesn't. If she doesn't want to be filmed, then she's not going to be filmed. And Richard can't do anything about it. So she knows exactly what she wants, and she has asked over and over again, when is Mummy coming home? And that's been a very difficult question for Richard to answer, particularly when hopes have been raised. You know, and I think towards the end of last year, there was the hope that it was going to happen, and the Christmas before that. And last summer, there was a clear sign that things were going to move in a direction to her coming home, and then they were dashed as well. Those hopes were dashed. And Gabriella, at each point, I think Richard has been pretty frank with Gabriella. There's the possibility of her mother coming home, and has had to be honest when it's not going to happen. We were told by the family's lawyers that she was a very excited young girl this morning when she was told of the possibility again. And finally, her dreams have come true. Her mother is returning.
Tell us a little bit about Anoosheh Ashoori. he is also free today. He is also on that plane. Not quite as much media focus on him, but for his family, an enormous relief also.
Yeah, Anoosheh Ashoori is a 68-year-old retired civil engineer. He was arrested a few years ago and charged with spying as well, to the obvious shock and consternation of his family, Sherry Azadi, his wife, and their children. And, she told me that they lived a fairly normal existence in South London. That he was a very devoted family man. He had built at the end of their garden a Hobbit house because she loves The Hobbit, she loves J.R. Tolkien books. And it wasn't completed because he was arrested. So another completely unlikely candidate to choose and accuse of spying. And part of what's going on here with the Iranians is they're choosing people who clearly aren't spies, but making it clear they're kind of hostages and that they are pawns in a game of hostage diplomacy that the Iranians very cynically play because they want to have concessions from the West. So Anoosheh is someone whose family have been extremely concerned about. He has been able to smuggle out recordings pleading for help, and at times he sounded fairly robust, at other times he sounded very dejected and very down, and at times they thought that even though he's a man of extraordinary kind of optimism normally and positivity, his wife told me she was worried that he might try and take his life at times during his incarceration. So she, of course, hugely relieved as well. I think they decided early on that they would follow Foreign Office advice and not publicise his case, and then decided that they weren't getting anywhere. They weren't getting the answers they wanted from the Foreign Office. Diplomats, they said to me, were kind of going through the motions. And so they started publicising his case as well, but not as high a profile as Richard has with Nazanin. But clearly that strategy has worked as well as the hours and hours of diplomatic negotiations the Foreign Office have put into this to bring this day about.
And in terms of his mental health, Nazanin's also has been a focus. She sort of had periods of time in captivity where she seemed to cope well, and other times where it just all became too much for her.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's a very strong woman, clearly. She's gone through hopes being raised, hunger strikes, being incarcerated in very bad conditions, thinking that she was going to get out and then realising that she wasn't. And Richard's described the phone calls he's had with her, trying to console her, trying to find ways of reassuring her, and sometimes just simply being lost for words. But she has a strength. I mean, they've both been through an ordeal that I think would lead many people to end up broken. I mean, just unable to cope. But she's managed to find the strength of character and the resilience, as has Richard, to get through this. And yeah, at times he was worried that she'd also commit suicide and was very worried about the hunger strikes. But he always believed, he told me, that this day would come. He couldn't not believe in that, but he wasn't able to think beyond a few days at a time. He's always thought, I'll get through this, I'll get through the next week, and then we'll see where it goes. Because if you think too far ahead, he said, you can end up going mad.